a nice relaxing weekend, and yeah.
Forget about everything.
I did. All I did was read books all weekend.
Oh, that's so nice.
I read Patricia's book. I
Oh
finished
yeah,
it. She gave it to me last week,
yeah.
and I read the whole thing. And
That's
after reading The Five Regrets of the Dying and then reading her book, it was like, excuse my French, but
yeah,
holy shit. Why do adults get so freaking screwed up
yeah.
and go through all this crap to finally figure it out on the other end,
Mm,
like in their 50s and 60s?
yeah,
And when I even, did I write it? Oh, I don't have it with me. I think I wrote in my journal, like, this is, it really hit me. It was
yeah,
like, this cannot continue.
yeah,
We got to stop this cycle.
yeah,
It really made it clear for me. It was just like, no, I know my mission now. My mission is clear. My mission is no, we're not going to suffer like this forever.
yeah, yeah,
But we're going to learn when we're young how not to beat ourselves up and take in all the muck. That's what she used in Five Regrets. Take in all the muck that gets piled on from either, people saying stuff to you, or things happening to you, or you
hmm,
telling yourself this stuff.
yeah,
And you do it years after years after years after years, and it gets piled so high that your light is totally burned out. It's just, to me, it's like, okay, let's get them while they're young.
yeah,
No muck. The muck's not going to attach. They're going to be able to push that muck aside and go, no, I love me. Like, my light shines.
yeah, yeah. It's like to equip them with windshield wipers type of thing, so that even though when there's storms and everything that are coming, they're just like wiping it all away. So
Yeah.
that way
And their light can still shine. They can still see.
they can still see and they can still keep on driving type of
I
thing.
like that too. Good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I think we just started. Okay. We
Welcome.
hadn't started the podcast, but maybe we did.
Why don't you introduce us, Susan?
Okay. So thank you for listening to Teen Talks. I'm Susan, and this is Rehan. I'm old. He's young. We talk about random things that parents and teenagers might care about, and our mission is to make the relationship between the two better, and to make it so that parents can support teens and teens can feel supported by their parents in a good way.
Yep.
That's it. Kind of got serious there. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. And in last week's episode, we we did a quite a deep dive with some topics, and then we came to the conclusion that one of the main thing that we are going to talk about today was self-awareness
Mm-hmm.
and developing self-awareness within teenagers, but also, within parents. And I'm hoping that we'll also be able to dive into how parents can help support their teens and almost help them become more self-aware.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think why don't we start off by just defining what that is? Like, Susan, how would you define self-awareness if you were to just think from the top of your head? Like, what is self-awareness to you?
Yeah. To me, self-awareness is understanding what it is you want in life. And when you're really young, you don't know, but you know basics. Self-awareness is realizing that you are valuable, and you are worthy, and you are enough.
Mhm.
Self-awareness is having your core values figured out, like what's really important to you. What are your non-negotiables that you won't do, or always will do? I
Yeah.
think that's self-awareness. It takes a while to get there. What do
Mhm.
you think? What's your definition?
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off of what you just said because I think that it is definitely about like, what you want to do. That's super important and kind of where you want to go. And I think ultimately, you kind of mentioned it, it's figuring out who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there's a quote. This was by Jay Shetty, said it in one of his podcasts. He was saying that human beings define themselves based off of what other people think of them. And then you went a step further by saying that human beings define themselves by the way they think other people think they are, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
the whole quote I think that he said was, I am who I think you think I am. Which,
Yeah.
right?
That's when you think about it, he's right. And you do that.
Yeah,
And we
because
shouldn't. What did he say about that? We shouldn't.
exactly. We're so concerned about what other people think. Yet, for example, I don't always ask you, for example, Susan, like, what do you think of me? I don't always ask you that. But then sometimes in my head, I'll be like, oh, I don't want to do this because maybe she'll think I'm like this. Or, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm creating an image of who I am through your imagination, which I don't even know if it's true or false. So it's so interesting. And I think that's why, like, if you have
All
a
sounds crazy.
it does sound so crazy, and we'll try and simplify it as much as possible today by discussing and breaking it down. But I think ultimately it's like if you're able to have such a clear idea on who you are, then you've created your not only your shield, but like your force field, like that you're able to stand tall, you're able to anything that comes your way, you'll be able to either take it in, absorb it, or deflect it if you need to. And like that, in my opinion, is the base, it is the core, and it is the biggest strength that someone can develop, right? Having that self-awareness.
I
And
agree.
there are levels to it, self-awareness comes with like knowing what you want, where you want to go in life, understanding where you are right now. And I think the deepest level is just being honest with yourself and, discovering who you are, going through a process of like self-discovery. So yeah, that's what from the reflection that I've taken regarding this subject, especially for
Yeah.
myself. That's kind of
Right.
the way I see self-awareness.
Yes. And I think that just because you're an adult does not mean you are self-aware. So self-awareness is something that you have to work on. It doesn't just happen. You have to work on it and develop it so that what comes at you in life is not circumstances that you have no control over. I mean, that's going to happen, but you don't allow those to run what it is you want done.
Yeah.
You're going to hit those forks in the road and you're going to have to make a decision, and you're going to hit things that you can't control, and you're going to have to go, okay, I can't do anything about this. So how am I going to problem solve it? How am I going to do it to the way that works for me? What can I control? And I think based on all the reading and the talking to adults that I've done, there are so many adults that don't do this. And I didn't do it until, recently.
Yeah.
And so for us to teach parents to do this, and then for them to teach or us teach teenagers to do this, it's going to change their whole life.
Yeah.
Because it's so, like you said, it's a force field, it's power, I've got this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm thinking there's so many things that we can talk about. And what I'm wondering is, I know this is like we're live and everything right now, but if you want, what we can do, and this is fine if this gets out there, is let's make this an episode for the parents only. So
Okay.
it's for parents, and then next week we can actually do one for teens, and then just kind of separate it, because then it can go all over the place, I think. And we can just focus on one of them and then give everything that we have to give regarding, self-awareness for parents. We'll get my perspective on it as a younger person and your perspective as a parent. And then next week we can go into it for teenagers. I don't know if you want to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah,
I'm
because
trying to think of to break it down into steps makes it easier to understand,
yeah.
because there are different categories, I don't know, of self-awareness. One of the thing is, I think we forget this when we get older, especially, is that we had passions
Yeah.
We had passions when we were young, things that you just lit you up. And I think as you get older, those passions die a little bit because we don't allow ourselves to be passionate about something because we have too many responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I think one of the main things is to go, what is it that lights me up? What is it that excites me? And to
Hmm.
start doing it again.
Yeah.
Because the one thing, if you're, I mean, your kids aren't going to listen to what you tell them. Your kids are going to watch you. Your kids are going to watch. They're watching you all the time.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is what they're learning.
Yeah.
And so if you have something you're passionate about and they see you doing it,
Hmm.
or whatever it is, maybe you're gardening, or I mean, I love gardening. So if I go out there and I just make beautiful things and I have fun with it and it's a passion for me, and maybe you share it with them or whatever,
Yeah.
they're going to see that, oh, I can do my passions. Look at mom's face. She's lit up. She's happy. She's excited.
Yeah.
And it's love to see that too.
Hmm.
So passions, I think, is one thing that, especially as adults, we need to really go back and think of what those are.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of just to piggyback off of what you said, I remember, I don't know if it was in last week's episode or before, but I was talking about the difference between knowing something and understanding it.
Mhm.
And I think I've just thought of this like one deeper level, and it just came up with you is actually like living it then.
Yeah.
Um, I'll go a bit deeper into that. For example, right? These I'll call them the three levels of influence, right? So someone who knows something is able to regurgitate whatever they know. Like they're able to tell you, okay, this is the way it is based off of what, they
Hmm.
they learned.
Yeah.
Someone who understands it is able to go a little bit deeper because now they don't just know it, but they understand it in some way. And then the third level is actually living it. When someone is able to live whatever that thing is, then their level of influence is by demonstration. And there's a mentor of mine who was really into Tony Robbins and everything, and he'd helped me a lot during COVID actually. And
Oh.
at that time, I was in a relationship, and like I have a way of seeing the world, and I really wanted to share that with my partner at the time, my girlfriend at the time. And he told me that if I tell her all this stuff, it's not going to stick, right? I can tell her as many things as I want, that is never going to stick. However, if I'm able to show up in that way and influence her that way because she sees who I am and she's like, wow, I admire that person, then that
Hmm.
is what is going to inflict the change. And then ultimately, this is a different situation. Obviously, it's not the same dynamic as a parent and a teenager, but ultimately, if she aligns with who you are, then she is going to start to evolve and change that way as well. Right. And if not, then unfortunately, he told me, he was like, if not, then that case, it means that you have to break up. And that's what we did. But um,
Hard.
it just goes to show like it is so true as parents, and this is obviously coming from my perspective. I am not a parent. I've
Mhm.
never been a parent. Hopefully I will be one day, but I can totally see it as a teenager. If my parent, for example, um, was telling me, smoking is bad, drinking is not good for you, but at the same time, they're smoking in front of me and they drink, they get drunk every single night and they're alcoholic. That does not make sense,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
That's not going to register with me because I don't
Right.
see proof. I don't see, and it's like it's almost hypocritical. It's like, okay, and this is the honest truth. Like, unfortunately, that's the way it is. So
Mhm.
it's almost like as a parent, you almost have to show up in the way that you want your teens to show up,
Mhm.
right?
But it has to be authentic, obviously.
Has to be authentic, of course. It has to be authentic, but it's one of those things where it's good to say it, right? It's good to understand it, but if you live it, then that's like the ultimate. That's the ultimate way um of almost giving that to your team, I would say.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting because on Mother's Day this year, it kind of flipped the switch or script here because I've been doing a lot of journaling, and one of the things I journaled recently was my birthday's right before that. So I was looking at, oh my gosh, okay, I'm this old. What have I done in my life all up until now? What things am I proud of? What things did I do that made a difference? You know, all that kind of stuff. I wrote it down. What things did I do that I really wanted to do? All these things, trips I took, businesses I started, stuff like that. And then I looked at the math and went, oh, okay, going forward, I got this many years probably, if I'm lucky, if I'm blessed to have those years. What is it I really, really want to do? And I wrote down this list and I shared it with my daughter because she asked me. And so for Mother's Day, my kids, or for my birthday, my kids got me some plants that are beautiful ones that I love. And I said, don't get me anything for Mother's Day. Just on Mother's Day, plant those plants because that's the hardest part. You got to dig that darn big holes and all that. If you can do that, that's great. And then on Mother's Day, it ended up being like 85 degrees, almost 90, I think, here in Seattle, which is awful. We don't have any air conditioning. And so they were so hot. They're like, So my daughter goes, she had a backup plan because she knew it was going to be hot. So she had my son bring over some big rocks and she pulled out all her paints because one of the things I said was, I used to love to paint and create things and do art. I haven't done it in forever.
Yeah.
And so she goes, guess what we're going to do today, Mom? We're all going to, so we sat outside at the table under the umbrella. She brought out all the paints, all the brushes, and she said, we're going to create rocks to go out in your garden. And at first it was like, oh my God, I got so into it. I had so much fun because my husband's mom just passed away recently. So I did my rock for her. My kids did their rock for me. My husband did his rock for his mom. And it was just, and we Mod podged them and stuck them in the yard, and I get to look at them every day, and it lit me up to go, I need to do art again, So that was kind of a flip. She knew that I needed to do it. So adults who aren't doing your passions, go back to them because it actually felt really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like that's such a it almost hits you. It hits you in such a way where it's like if you were to be completely honest with yourself, because that I think honesty is one of the fundamentals when it comes to self-awareness, right? And there are things that if we don't necessarily reflect on them, we will never even like open that door again, like ever again. And you know how you're talking about these passions and everything. We might never ever revisit those passions if we don't allow ourselves to unlock those thoughts and open those doors up. And I think I'm sure there's some questions, right, that we could ask ourselves that would help us unlock those doors. And I want to know, like, do you have any questions in mind of, questions that can open up this sort of reflection when it comes to kind of figuring out and being more honest with ourselves and opening up those doors to allow, whether it is parents or adults or whatever, to kind of enter that sort of, that sort of way of thinking, to be more honest and have that self-awareness and, just work on that a little bit more.
Well, like I said, it was going back and looking at, and you can do this at any age. Go back and give yourself kudos for the things you've done well. Think about, like, what is it I really enjoyed in my life so far? What did I do that I'm proud of? What did I do that was exciting, adventure, whatever? And just write it down. And then really sit and think. Give yourself the time. Put on some music, go out in the yard, go somewhere where nobody's going to bug you. And just think about all the things, almost like a bucket list, but does not so much of, because sometimes the bucket list can be things that are out of your realm. But write down all the things that in the rest of your life, things that you really want to do. What do you want to focus on? What lights you up again? What are some adventures you want to take? I think that's a great place to start, because if you really dig deep, then you're going to know what really matters to you. Because, like, for me, it was like I wrote down good health. So I want to make sure that I can play with my grandchildren when I get them someday. Um, some of my friends have grandchildren. I want some. Uh, but I want to make sure that I do what I eat well, I exercise and do all those things so that I can live to 90, 95, whatever, and feel good instead of not,
Yeah.
and be able to play with my grandkids. So those kinds of things.
Hmm.
The other thing I would say is think of your core values
Mm.
and write those down. What are the 3 to 5 things that are your non-negotiables? Those 3 to 5 things that drive, or you want them to drive, your life. Like
Mhm.
you were talking about, saying those things to your kids, but not doing them,
Yeah.
right? What are the things that you will not do? What are those things you will always do? Like, could be like, I'm never going to lie. I
Yeah.
refuse to lie unless it's going to be something that's, going to hurt someone. I'm not going to tell somebody, if it's not necessary, then I don't need to say it, right? But that could be a non-negotiable. I'm never going to do that. Or a non-negotiable is maybe I don't always say yes.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right, I say no.
Yeah.
Non-negotiables, I listen to my gut. I mean, these are some things that are core values to write down and have it clear, and share those with your kids too, and live them,
Yeah.
like you said.
Also,
And
and you can even go through this exercise like as we're talking about it right now. These are some things that I'm sure like parents could actually, have a sit down with their kids and go through this stuff with them so that even whether it's teenagers or even younger, preteens or whoever, they can start thinking about this stuff as well and establishing their own core values and their own non-negotiables. But the one
yeah.
thing that I really want to stress is from my experience interacting with a lot of parents,
Mm-hmm.
um, and parents of teenagers and parents of even preteens and younger kids. One of the things that seems to come up a lot, and you can either back me up or argue this with me, Susan, is
Sure.
that there is a side of parents where they actually lose a bit of themselves because they are so focused on their kids
Mm-hmm.
and they're not paying as much attention to themselves anymore because now they have this responsibility to give to help, like literally help another human being not
Mm-hmm.
only like survive but live, thrive, navigate the world and all this stuff.
Yeah,
That comes with such a big responsibility, which means
it
that
does.
I from what I've heard, what parents have told me is that it takes away from being able to give to yourself. And
Hmm.
I'm sure many of you have heard this before, but there's that whole analogy of like, you have to give to yourself before you're able to give to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to fill your glass or fill your cup before you're able to, fill someone else's. You
Yeah,
you can't give someone orange juice if all you have is apples, that type of analogy, right?
right.
I think that this
Totally agree.
this whole thing of self-awareness is like a first step to that. It's a first step of like, just taking a step back and asking yourself, like, am I giving myself enough so that I can give the best of me to the people around me? Whether
Yeah.
that is my kids, whether that is my partner, whether that is my parents or family or friends or whoever it is. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it is super important to just take a step back and just like go through some sort of like an honest experience with yourself, uh,
Right.
to yeah, just answer these little questions and just put it on paper, right? It's good to do it in your head, but if you actually put it on paper, it's even deeper, it's stronger. But to just go through that, because once you have that, once you've defined that, then things become clear. And
Mm-hmm.
whether that's with even decision making, like we were talking about making decisions earlier on, like if I have a decision to make, if I have no idea who I am, where I want to go, what I want to do, I'm not going to be able to make that decision. It is going to be so hard for me to make that decision, right? But if I do know exactly who I am, what my values are, where I want to go, what I want to do, then that decision is like, you can feel it. You'll feel it right away. You'll feel it in your,
Yeah.
and you'll
Yep.
know this is what I should do.
Those core values help define and make decisions because you look at them. Do they meet my core values, my
Exactly.
non-negotiables? Do I feel it in here?
Yeah.
I mean, learning to listen to your gut, your instincts it takes time, but really listen. There is a reason it's there, and it's real, and it's truth.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like a compass. It's like a compass that is guiding you, right?
Mhm.
And all
Yep.
you have to do is you have to just look at it. You just have to look at the compass. You have to acknowledge that it exists and just look at it. Because I don't think that like that gut feeling, everyone has it. It's just a matter of recognizing it or not, right?
Mhm.
And I think that just comes with like, yeah, just sitting down with yourself and looking inside a little bit, reflecting, and then you'll find it. You'll feel
Yeah.
it, right?
And I just heard a good exercise on another podcast to do about gut and how to find that gut instinct, and when is to look back and go, can you think of a time when you followed your gut
Mhm.
and it led you in a good way?
Yeah.
Can you think of a time where you heard it in your gut, you heard it, you it was there, and you chose not to listen and did the opposite? And how did that turn out? Starting to acknowledge those times and think back when you listened and followed, and when you didn't, what
Mhm.
were the consequences? That's a good way to know, okay, I know when to listen to my gut,
Yeah.
and then start building that going forward. um I now look back, I made some huge decisions that I should not have made. I
Mm.
made the wrong ones, and I knew it in my gut that I
Yeah.
went for it anyway, and it wasn't the best. I'm
Yeah.
not going to tell you what those are because it might hurt some people, so I don't want to do that. But um, that is so true.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between like your gut and what you think. There's a difference between your gut and what you feel, like your emotions. Because I just know relatively like recently, this must have been maybe 7 or 8 months ago. I like made another really big decision in my life to move back to France after being in Canada for almost a year
Mm-hmm.
after a surgery and everything. And I was like, because I'm a soccer player, so I really wanted to, get back into it. And I made that
Yeah.
decision. I knew it was right in my gut,
Mm-hmm.
but my mind was saying, okay, yeah, but you don't have any opportunities yet. Like, what's the point in going? Are you sure? Like, how are you going to do it? Asking all these questions. My emotions were like feeling uneasy because I'm leaving my family again. I haven't spent much time with them. I got to spend like a whole year with them, which was amazing, and I got comfortable and used to that. And I was like, do I really want to go through this again? And there was all these little things, like I was feeling weird, feeling unsure about it. My mind was going off and saying like, yeah, but what about this? But if buts, maybe all this stuff. But I knew deep down, like there's that gut feeling that was like, just go, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, one of the best decisions I've made, because then it's gotten me back into this whole thing of like, pursuing my dream, keeping on going. And you know it's one of those life-changing moments. And I think when you have that gut like instinct on you know exactly what it is, you've developed that self-awareness. And by the way, self-awareness is not something that once you develop it, it's done. You have
Right.
to continuously work on it. You have to continuously check in on yourself, continuously ask yourself these questions, right? But
Yes.
if you keep on doing that, and if you make it a priority for yourself, then the reality of things is that life is actually going to get easier.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Yeah.
if you are making hard decisions, you'll be able to deal with them better because you're
Mm-hmm.
owning those decisions because you know that they're the right decisions to make. So
Exactly.
it's such a it's so important. It is just it, you know, can't even stress it enough. Like it is the one thing that if I think honestly, if I were to give any piece of advice to any young person or anyone else, if anyone were to come to me like, what is your one piece of advice? I would say develop self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. For
That's what,
sure.
because once you have that, then it
Yeah,
opens so much.
you have everything. And I think, I mean, I don't know, when I came out of you, I had this self-realization, of how so many of adults gets all this stuff on them that has happened through their lives, and then they lose who they are.
Yeah,
They have negative self-thoughts. We all have that chatter in there, and that chatter, it's just constant. It's constant. And it's your chatter,
yeah,
and it's not truth. It's trying to beat you down. And so you need to learn how not to let the things people say to you, the things that you think sometimes are negative, stick, because it's not true.
yeah,
And once you figure out yourself, then you realize it's not true,
exactly.
and that you are in a uniquely individual bright light already.
Yeah,
You're born that way.
yeah,
And then all this crap happens to you, and if you let it stick, it brings you down,
mhm,
and then you don't see yourself anymore, and you don't shine anymore. So that's one of the things that you just got to continually work on. And
yeah,
once you get those core things,
yeah,
it's so much easier, like you said,
mhm,
so much easier.
yeah. It's like you want to become the source of light rather than rely on another source of light to come and save you
Right.
and help you out.
And
It,
as a parent,
yeah,
being a light for your child
it's huge.
is huge, because then they go, it's possible. I see. I'm going to have my light shine just like my parent does, my mom does, my dad. you
Yeah,
know they see that in you. um and so one of the things you were saying I wanted to go back to was, oh, I don't have the time because I'm constantly taking care of my children. All that stuff is, believe it or not, if you are honest and open with your children and you say, I need some time to take care of myself because that's important, they will understand.
yeah,
Tell them you love them, all of those things, but say, right now I have to go do this, and you'll be okay. Daddy will take care of you, or, I've got a babysitter for you, or if you're a teenager, you know, go ahead and read for a while, do something on your own. But if they see that you're saying, it's important for me to step back, go into my own thing and take care of myself so that I can better take care of you,
yeah,
that is a huge gift that you give your child,
yeah,
because then they start to realize, oh, it's important to take care of ourselves.
exactly.
And if they see you constantly running around, just been tending to them all the time, they're going to think they're going to have to do that to other people,
Yeah,
constantly tending to other people, not themselves. And we don't
mm,
want to teach them that.
yeah,
So it starts with you, mom and dad. It starts with you.
yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And it like literally full circle right here. It's like when you show your teen that that's okay, then they'll realize that that's okay for them to do moving forward as well.
Mm-hmm.
Realize the importance of, taking time for themselves. And, you know, it's like you said, it is the most beautiful gift that you can give them,
Mm-hmm.
help them realize that it's okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've had a lot of self-awareness happen to me in the last probably 5 years.
Mhm.
COVID didn't help. Um, or maybe it did help. I should say that it did help, because it forced us to be alone a lot.
Mm.
And I I bought this rental property far away from here, down by the beach in California. And so I would go there because I had to work on it or do things. And I would go there by myself and spent a lot of time alone. And at first it was really uncomfortable for me. Like, what do I do? And I was afraid to go out. It's so weird. I was afraid to go out to go to a restaurant by myself or go to an event by myself or whatever. It took me so much courage to do that. And I'm like old. I should be.
Yeah.
And who cares? Right. I finally spent time with myself, and oh my gosh, it was the most empowering thing. I just forced myself to do it. And I realized how dumb it was that nobody cares what I'm doing. They're just doing their own thing. And I actually started talking to people and kind of having fun, even though I was by myself. So I think that's the other thing too, is to be aware that, are you okay to be by yourself?
Mhm.
You got to love yourself and love being with yourself
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. You have to develop a relationship with yourself.
Yeah,
That's
it's really interesting.
that's literally what it is. It's
Yeah,
and that helps then with you then reaching out to other people, helping other people, interacting with other people, being with other people.
it makes your world bigger too. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you're not in this little tiny bubble. I felt like I'm always in this bubble. And
Yeah.
when you get out there and you allow yourself to be a part of the world
Yeah.
and shine
Yeah.
just as you are and not feel bad about it or scared or anything, oh my gosh, it's empowering.
So empowering. I've made like TikToks and videos on this, where, because obviously in my own like soccer journey and stuff, like because I moved when I was young on my own and everything. So I've had a lot of alone time,
Mm-hmm.
but I learned to quickly never be lonely. And there's this quote. I love quotes. If you like haven't caught on by now, I keep
Yeah, we
coming.
figured that out.
Yeah.
I like them too. I just don't remember them. I write them
I,
down.
I I probably butcher them anyways. Like I'm probably not even quoting it correctly, but you're never lonely if you love the person you're alone with.
Ah, I like that. I
So if
like
you
that.
love yourself, you'll never be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I used to do is there's a spot like because I'm back where I pretty much grew up here in France. There's a spot maybe 15 minutes away, like it's a 15-minute walk away, where it's like there's like a little hill, and at the top of that hill you have this breathtaking view with the sunset. And I would go there almost every single evening when I didn't have training, and maybe I didn't have that much homework or whatever. And I would go there all the time, just like on my own, maybe sometimes with like a friend just to like have a conversation and things like that. But most of the time on my own, just put in my earphones in and listen to some music, sometimes just listen to like some meditational music, like really soft
Yeah.
music, and just sit there and think. And like those are some of the most life-changing moments because
Mhm.
you are developing something with yourself. You are improving the relationship that you have with yourself. You're improving your self-love. You're learning more about yourself. And these are all things that are part of self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it is so important to do that. It is so important to just spend time with yourself. Like just be alone. Be alone with
And I
yourself.
and I like how you said you wanted to go up on that spot where it was pretty, and it was a special place for you. And
Mm.
you didn't do anything else up there but just be. And I think we forget to just be. And when no distractions, just beauty around you,
Yeah.
it could be in meditation, it could be just be,
Yeah.
you know, and
Totally.
when we just be, the good things come to us.
Yeah.
Then thoughts come to us that are inspiration, ideas.
Yeah.
Uh, you hear yourself,
Hmm.
and usually it's the good things. It's when you're in that state
Yeah.
of being in a place that you love and everything, the
Yeah.
bad crap doesn't come to you. It's amazing. The good stuff comes. The
Yeah.
idea is if you open yourself up to God, the universe, whatever it is you believe in, that's when it comes to you. And so you've got to give yourself that space. Teenager and adult, anybody,
Yeah.
young, old, whatever.
Yeah.
We need to remember we need that time to just be, turn off all the crap that comes to us all day long,
Yeah.
and just so important.
So important. 100%. 100%. It's like tuning into a frequency, right?
Yeah.
There's put it this way, there is a very positive energy that is resonating at a specific frequency. If you want to be aligned with that frequency, you have to tune into it.
Yeah.
Right? And once you tune into it, then you'll be able to feel it. But if you're not tuned into it, then unfortunately you won't. Right? And
Exactly.
ways that you can do that. These are ways that you can tune into that frequency. And sometimes, you need to do something a little bit different, right? It's not always easy to just make a decision and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to look at things more positively. Yes, that works, but sometimes it's not sustainable. Sometimes it won't get you to that level that you want to be at. So sometimes you might want to go for a walk in nature. Sometimes you might want to, listen to some music. Sometimes maybe if you like playing music, you might want to play some music.
Yeah.
You like art, you might want to do the art. If you want to, whatever it is that you like. I know for me, like one of the things that I love doing is playing soccer. So if I need that sort of like boost or whatever it is to just get me back to where I want to be and the emotional home that I want to have, like sometimes I'll just, go out on my own and just start kicking a ball around, and it changes things.
Yeah.
So there's
I love that emotional home. That's a good term. Yeah.
something to get into on another
I know.
podcast.
Well, it's interesting because when my daughter was living here, I think I said already that she just moved out back to where she went to school, and I'm an empty nest for good now. But she was here for 4 months, and both of us like to journal. And so I had gotten her for Christmas a journal. Like I have this journal, right? So, but it's got lines in it because I write in it. She doesn't like that kind of journal. And so we would spend, not every morning, but some mornings, put on some really mellow music, and she'd be at one end of the house and I'd be at the other end of the house. And I had my journal that I just write in. Well, she has her journal is a sketch pad, because when she journals, she does it with art because she's extremely artistic. And so she goes, Mom, I don't like having lines. I don't like to stay that way.
Yeah.
Where I'm more of a writer. She draws and then she writes words and she does it in a different way. And she says that's helped her so much.
Yeah.
She's done it now for a few years. And she said it has, because she gets anxiety sometimes and a little bit of depression, as most of us do at times. And she says it helps her a ton.
Yeah.
And I find when I just sit there and go, I have no expectation of what I'm going to write, and I just start writing whatever comes to my mind, eventually something kicks in and the real stuff comes out, and it's right there on the page in front of me. And sometimes I go back and go, where did that come from?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that, I think that's such a good example of how there are no rules when it comes to journaling or meditation or any of these tools that people can use. There are no rules. There is no way to do it. If something feels right to you, then please, 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 please just do that. Whether that is
do it.
Yeah, whether that is writing down something or drawing or just scribbling or whatever it is, express it however you want to express it. Even meditation. I mean, there are some people that have to focus on their breathing. There are other people who, they'll recite affirmations constantly. I've had these experiences where I'm meditating and people say that you want to clear your thoughts. I'm like, why? Why don't I just let my thoughts run and see where that takes me? And I would just let my thoughts run, and I'd sit in those thoughts and then just break them down slowly. And it'd always take me on this wonderful journey, right?
Yeah.
And it just goes like there are no rules with music, without music, sitting, standing, like
Listening to a meditation, going through one as somebody speaking to you. That's another way to do it. I mean, yeah,
there's
there
so
are
many,
no rules.
There are no rules. Like, do whatever feels right for you in that moment and just enjoy it. Like, just be present, enjoy that moment, and don't like, there are no rules. You don't have to limit
Yeah.
yourself in any way. And that's the way that's the way life works. Like, at the end of the day, we're just living, we're just being, we're just here, right? And
Yeah.
it
I
goes,
know it's crazy when you think about it. And what's really important in life is
yeah,
loving yourself and living the life that you want to live, not something that someone tells you to. And to be grateful for the things that you have, really grateful,
yeah,
like feel it grateful.
yeah,
Um, so, yeah, oh boy, we got deep on this one. But self-awareness is deep, and it's so, so, so important, because if you don't have that, you're spinning.
yeah. And
You're letting the world shape you, and you don't
yeah,
want that.
and the last thing that I want to say regarding this thing is, if you want to love others to the highest degree, you
Which every
have
parent
to
does.
love yourself. Yeah,
Yes, you have to.
you have to love yourself to the
You
same,
have to.
in fact,
Yeah.
maybe even more. And it doesn't mean like you have to be cocky or anything like, haha, I'm the best, I'm the best. No, but just like, have an understanding of, like, yes, I do love myself, you know, getting to a point where you're able to like look at yourself in the mirror and just smile and say, like, you know what, like, I love you. Like, that's so powerful.
Mhm.
Because the more you're able to give yourself that love, the more love you're able to give to the world, right?
Yeah, like you were talking about the frequency, the energy. When you are filled with love for yourself, you are at a different frequency,
Yeah,
and you're giving out, and people see it. It's amazing. Your kids will feel it.
yeah,
Um, all of this stuff. It's just it's an energy that comes from you that is powerful.
yeah,
Um, and it takes work. It's not an easy thing all the time, but it's extremely important. And if you're in a place, it's easy to say,
yeah.
but if
Wait,
you're in a place where you're not even close to that, get some help. Get somebody to, either a mentor or a coach or a therapist or someone who you can talk to this stuff about, and they can help you and guide you and give you ideas and maybe help you unlock stuff that's blocking you. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
yeah, yeah. And just, it's almost one of, like, you have to go through the different stages. You have to, you know about it, then you can start to understand it, and then you can start to live it, right? So just
Mhm.
take things step by step, but understand that, everyone's at a different stage. So it doesn't make sense to compare yourself and where you're at with other people. But as long as you know that you're taking the steps that you need to take to eventually get to a place that you want to be, then you're on the right path.
Yeah,
And you're on the right path. Yeah.
cool.
All righty.
Cool. Okay, so next week we're going to talk about this for teens, right?
Yeah.
Or
So this
okay.
is a parent special. This is a special. Next week we're doing a teen special. I think that for any parents who do want to tune into next week's episode, I think there is going to be value there as well, because maybe your teen doesn't watch this podcast or listen to this podcast. So then, you might want to tune in for them so that you can take the stuff
Yeah,
and transmit it to them. Or even, I'm sure there are going to be things that you might be able to gather from there that you'll want to implement into your own life. Like, who knows? So
yeah. But also invite your teen to watch next week,
yeah,
because we're going to be specifically talking to them,
yeah.
and you know, they can't hear it too much. That's for sure.
Yeah. And we're gonna be talking about this subject even more moving forward, because there's so many different things to talk about, so many different layers to this. And I think we'll even at some point do even deeper dives into these specific topics, like, self-love and self-discovery and all these other things. So yeah,
Mhm.
just, I hope that everyone is, like we keep saying, I hope everyone's getting the value and enjoying it. And
Yeah.
please give us your feedback, ask questions. And yeah, I guess we'll just see you all next week.
Yep. Next week, and have a wonderful week, and go find some time to just be.
Love it. All right. Take care, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Rehan. Bye, everybody.
Bye.